Hey everybody, happy Wednesday. I hope everybody is doing well. If you are going on how many days in the house, if you guys are on lockdowns, thanks for joining me. Um, it's kind of crazy. I mean, we still have some flexibility. We've still got people going out to work. Recommendation here is definitely to stay home if you can and be able to restrict and limit your outside movements and connections with folks. People with young kids, I mean, this is March break, so they would have been home anyway, although certainly most parents had plans with day camps and things like that. I'm sure all of those have been canceled. So everybody's struggling in some way. But we're here to have some fun. We're here to do something creative, and in my mind that always means that's a break. That's a break from my other job and the way that I have to think and the way that I have to process information, and it is relaxing. It's soothing. It soothes my creative soul. So we're going to carry on with this buffet that we started yesterday. So it's an old wheeled buffet. It does have a piece that attaches up above it, which is lying on the ground in behind it right now, which is just a kind of squared off back mirror, which I have predominantly painted yesterday in just the kind of the plummy purple color here, because as it sits above the rest, that's kind of for continuity's sake, mostly the color that it will be. Today, we're going to add on to, this is our base coat that we've got. We're going to be adding on to this and kind of following the lines a little bit, but we're going to be adding in a little bit more color. And I've started to maybe get a little bit of a better idea of where I'm going. But, it's always a work in progress. So it's kind of translating over into things. So who knows when it finishes up, but I'm still kind of loving that plummy purple color. For this project, I am using right now all DIY products. So the pink tone that you see here is Petticoat Pink by DIY. This is a clay-based paint, and I love this because it's got a lot of open time, meaning that I can reactivate the paint by adding some water to it using a spray mister, so that I'm able to do a lot of blending. And since I wasn't sure of exactly where I was going, this paint kind of served me and my direction, or me and my lack of direction, a little bit better, because it gave me some of the flexibility that I was after. Sometimes with pieces, I have a really clear vision of where I want to go, and other times I don't. This is maybe one of those times. So I'm not as sold on where I was thinking I was going, so much as where I might be going. It's a little different. It's a work in progress. But you will see me with my mister bottle. This is not a spray bottle, it's a mister. It's just a little fine misting. So it just kind of loosens things up a little bit. And as the brushes have been sitting, they start to dry up a little bit. So I'm just wetting them to loosen up a little. And we'll kind of go from there. Let me just grab these legs a little bit first. So this might be a little too low for you, but just painting them that plum. This color from DIY, the pink is Petticoat Pink. This color is Cherry Picked, which is a lovely, deep, rich, Bing cherry kind of color, which is, some people would say eggplant, but I don't think it really isn't an eggplant color. It's a little bit of a different shade, a little bit less purple per se than that, if that makes any sense. A little bit more in the deep kind of reddish tones, but it's beautiful. So I'm loving that color. We'll see when this piece is done how much this color appeals to a potential buyer. But you know what? Sometimes you just never know. Sometimes you just have to go with doing something different, trying something different. I think that really one of the advantages for me as a furniture painter, furniture artist, is that none of my pieces are the same. They're all unique. They're all different, and that's one of the things that I think people are looking for when they buy a piece, when they shop for a piece from me versus going into the store. That they're looking for something that isn't the same as everybody else's, that they're not going to see in everybody else's home, that they're going to have something that is one of a kind, that is totally unique. You know, even if I try to do these finishes again, you know, I can use similar colors and similar tones, but it's never going to be exactly the same. Now I'm focusing down on this bottom part first because I do want to have some of the color a little bit more open. You're going to notice I did not put the purple on the ends of this because I'm going to be doing a little bit of blending, and I want to add some of that purple back in. Right now, I am opening up, having another brush. So many brushes, and look, I'm covered in paint already. I have done nothing, and I'm covered in paint. It is impossible for me to stay clean. So, as much as I have a kind of a clean top on, I have old paint pants on. Now, this color, I just got a big whack of something there. This is Cowgirl Coral. So it's definitely kind of an orangey. A couple of elements. And again, just going with the mister brush. And now I'm picking up the plum. Okay? I keep calling it plum. Cherry. The cherry pick. Right? And let's mist to get a little bit of this blending down in here. So one of the things that I'm doing here is I got a little bit of cherry picked on one end of my brush. That's the lower part. Now I'm flipping the brush as I come to do this upper piece so that now the cherry picked is on top here. Okay? So as I'm trying to blend, I'm flipping the brush around to keep that lighter piece always in the same spot. So if that makes sense in terms of some of the blending. Now, because I want to blend in the middle, I'm taking a completely different brush. Right? So this is one that I had used for blending yesterday, and this is me unloading it on my drop cloth, wetting it a little bit, and let's just drag through here a bit. Just to soften it out a little bit. What I didn't want is it to be as harsh or as stark as this looks, right? The contrast, you can see this starts to soften out just a little bit. We're going to do a little bit more with it. Lord, I gotta fix those. All right, so, oh my goodness, you can't see her, but my dog is like right there, lying on top of any of the brushes that I've left out in the way, and she's a cream-colored dog, so it's not a good look for her all the time. All right, so now I'm coming in with the cherry picked on these edges. All right, so I didn't have it before because I knew that I would be blending those other colors out. Oh, Harley, you're going to be pink. And now I'm going to drag it out this way. And then I will take that softening brush a little bit. just kind of soften a bit. So I don't want to muddy this purple up too much, but you can see where that end at least gets a little bit more finished looking this way. And I just was anticipating that I was going to be dragging that color. So rather than painting that cherry picked right at that back edge, right from the start and having to go over it, I just waited in anticipation of having to drag my brush through it. Now, one of the things that we're going to do, so we're going to do that same kind of thing up in here. I'm thinking I'm getting rid of this pink here. I'm just going to do the purple in there. It just looks too much for me. I'm not digging it, so so that's going. Just big. I don't know whose hair that is since I don't have long hair. Yeah, that's better. All right. So I'm looking in the camera to see that it's better just because that's further away and I get a better look at that. Okay. So we're going to do the same to this, but then today I am going to be adding some green. And I know that some of you guys had, oops, let me start with pink. So some of you guys had posted that you'd like to see some green added, and I think it's going to go good with that plummy cherry kind of color. So I'm with you. I want to add some of that in there too, just in some strategic spots. But I also want to switch this up a little bit. I still find it a little bit too much of a contrast between that pink and the cherry picked color for me. So I want to soften it up a little bit too. So let's get a little bit of our coral on. And again, not a lot, but I do like the addition of just that little bit in there to kind of break up that pink and the cherry color. And I am thinking as well, to tell you the truth, that I quite like the thought of some gold making its way onto this piece at some point too. So before I start flipping this, let me just do the same up here. And then I'll come and flip it. Blend. And for something like this, don't worry if you think, oh, that's a little bit more coral than I got in other spots. You want to have some differentiation. You want to have a little bit of variation. You don't want every panel to look exactly like the other panel. Okay, let me get the edges and then we'll move on to this side. So I want to awkward little containers to get in and out of. All right. Let's get our cherry picked on these sides. Soften. My brush is rolling into the dog, having a fight for it underneath her. If you hear any snoring, that's her. She's as she's gotten older, she's definitely making her presence known, even in moments like this. She sleeps on the floor right below me, and bless her heart, she's snoring and tooting and just, you know, doing what old dogs do, I guess, more than anything else. But she's 16. She was 16 on Boxing Day, so she's had a good long go, and she's been a great dog. So she wants to snore. Bless her heart, she gets to snore. So not too many complaints, but she does have weird hours now. So she likes to sometimes, if you see me scrubbing down here, I'm just offloading the brush onto my drop cloth. I think that just needed a little bit more pink in there. There we go. All right. Looks like I'm missing a little bit of paint in here. Probably just dry. Okay. And yes, better already. Okay, so you can see it's a little bit softer, a little bit more blended than this side, which seems a little bit more stark by comparison. So we're going to soften this side. And then I'm going to do two more things after that. So then we're going to add a little bit of green. Oh my goodness, covered, you're driving me nuts. Then we're going to add a little bit of green, just strategically in some spots, which may not be as evident to you guys on the screen right now, but will definitely show up when it comes time to wax. And so it'll be more kind of in those later details for sure. Which is one of the things when I'm working on a piece I always like to think about, is not just some of the things that you see from a distance, which is kind of that overall color and overall finish, but as well what you see up close. And so as much as this blended side is better than this side in terms of not such a stark contrast, it's still a little bit of a stronger statement than I'm looking for from this piece. So I am thinking that I need may try and roller on a little bit of an additional color. So let's just put a little bit of our orange up in here. So, sorry, coral. Our coral up in here. And taking that one edge of that brush again and starting to do some of that blending. So here you can see the paint wasn't moving quite as well, so it needs a little bit more water to get that moving, to let that blending happening. Here I'm flipping that brush around so that my cherry is in the same spot. Flipping it around again for up here. And flipping it around again for up there. So, and then offloading some of that pale pink that happened. So then flipping to another brush, just to be able to do a little bit of softer blending inside the center there. There we go. And now we'll just pick up a little bit more of the cherry to do these edges that we left. So you can see if I had done these edges right from the start, I would have ended up having to redo them anyway, because as I'm trying to blend all this paint, it tends to go out to the sides anyway. So just from experience, I've learned to wait. I'm not usually good at waiting, but in this case, it serves me because I'm not having to redo everything. So with this one, I'm just kind of feathering that purple in a little bit. Softening it a bit while I can. And then I'll take this drawer will definitely get fixed before it gets sold. Make sure that that clasp catches, but you get this a lot with the older cabinets, right? That things have gotten a little bit out of whack over the years, so it's not unusual. Okay, so let's get to the top. A little bit of our cherry. Right. Yeah, let me just put lids back on the stuff I'm not using so that I'm not tripping over it. I don't know when I did that. So a little bit of a purple blotch down here. So we just soften it out. That's what I meant when I said this paint just reactivates. So I got a weird blotch, a weird drip. Just spritz it with some water. It's good to go. All right. I have a million cans of paint down here. And different colors on the go. So let us look at adding in a little bit of green. So for this particular green, I am using, again, another DIY product, and this one's called Monet's Garden. Can you see how green that one is? So it's kind of a pretty pretty distinct, bright green. But I'm looking at using it strategically. So you can see on the tip of the, maybe, yeah, you can kind of see on the tip of the brush, I'm not using a lot. I am, however, going to use glasses first. So where I think I'm going to add it is kind of in the same places that you would if you were looking at kind of distressing the piece. You know, in some of those wear areas. I'm not looking at necessarily distressing this, but I'm kind of adding the green, and I'm using another Paint Pixie brush, but you can see that this one is kind of pointed. This is, let me get it up where the pink is. This is a French tip, so it's a little bit of a rounded brush because I know that I want to be able to get it into some of those corners, some of those more tricky areas. So I'm not adding a lot, and I'm kind of blending as I go. Oh, that was a lot, so we'll offload a little bit here and come back and get that. And you can see that I'm using a fairly light touch, so I'm kind of feathering it in. So there won't be any harsh lines here. We're just looking at kind of blending a bit of it in, having it show up. This will show up a lot more once we wax this piece, once it's finished. But we're mostly kind of blending it in, adding it in for a little bit of the contrast against that cherry-picked color. If you're doing this and you find, like right over here, it's a little too harsh, then again, just get out your water, kind of mist it a little bit, reactivate it, and look at blending it. Okay, don't want to forget the legs, a little bit at the bottom here. These are kind of just plain old squared off legs. So a little bit plain, in which case, don't forget them with a little bit of this detail, right? Just a little bit of that extra paint in there can kind of perk them up a little bit, add a little bit of detail. Okay, that's working for me. I'm liking that. A little bit there. This is where, thank goodness for drop cloths, because I end up painting on them tons. I'm constantly wiping my brush off on it. If I need to offload, I got too much color on there. If I'm not doing it on the drop cloth, then I'm doing it on my jeans. Which probably explains why I don't have a lot of clothes that don't have paint all over them. I'm constantly wiping things off on them. So now I'm trying very diligently to have painting jeans and non-painting jeans. We'll see how long that lasts, because from earlier videos, you've already noticed where all of a sudden I realize I'm not wearing my painting jeans and I have to try and stay clean, which doesn't necessarily work great for me. It's a little harsh. Oh my goodness. I have the dog, and there's sometimes at night that it's like I wake up because it sounds like she's dying. She's just not gonna make it. She's just dreaming on. Although she sleeps so soundly now that she is often wetting her bed. But I've gotten smart about this now. So I've wrapped her big bed, because there's no way that you can clean those things. So I've wrapped it up and duct taped it together with a shower curtain. Thank goodness for the dollar stores. And I'm just doing the legs, so that's where I've disappeared to. You're just hearing this disembodied voice. I'm sure there's not a lot of me in the shot anymore. But I wrapped it up in a shower curtain, and then I just put a whack of towels over top, so that if she's wetting, it's not a big deal. Just take the towels and wash them out the next day and start all over again for her. It seems like even if I wake her up just before I go to sleep and take her outside, usually to her disgust, she doesn't want out, and I'm forcing her out, and I'm standing in the doorway, and I don't let her back in until she goes and she pees. She still wets the bed. I'm sure it's just out of anger. Just to get me back. I'm like, see, you didn't need to take me out. It was just totally unnecessary. I was planning on wetting the bed anyway. Okay. So I think that's enough green. I'm just kind of looking. Maybe a little bit here. There we go. Okay. So now here's my thinking. I don't know what you were wrapped up in. Let me wrap this brush up before they all get crispy on me. All right. So for me, this is still kind of, I don't know, stark, patchy. It's something. So I happened to have still a little bit of leftover, kind of a purple, that I had blended up myself. So this is from some DIY paint. This is some Hay Sailor, which is the navy blue, and a little bit of the pink, which I'm trying to think what it's called, and I can't. But I will look it up and drop it in, and it gets to be a little bit more purple than this cherry picked. So it is a wash, though. I've mixed it up, and you can see it's very liquid. So what I'm going to do is just kind of put it over top of these pinky areas. And I don't want to put it on with a brush, because I don't want it to be covering all of it. I just want to add a little bit more texture, and I want to dull this down a little bit. So I am using what's called a brayer. So this is a rubber roller, and a lot of crafters use them for different things. It's not necessarily a paint tool, but it is today. And I have put that paint, that wash onto a paper plate, and I spritzed it with more water to get it even more watery. And I am just going to roll it over top of those pinky tones. So you can see them kind of getting a little bit of texture happening. I'm going to spray that and just roll over it some more. So I'm getting some patterning, I'm getting some texture. So some of you are just, some of you are going, cool. It's really going to depend upon your taste and how much you like neat versus messy finishes, I guess. But I am kind of loving it myself. So it's adding some texture. It's adding a little bit of variation there. It's breaking up that pink color. Just lightly. And I am thinking, yeah, see, that's working for me. Stop. I am thinking that I'm going to need to do some metallics on this too. So I do have some golden ticket out, and I may add some powders into the clear wax so that it adds a little bit of a sparkle and a sheen to this too, and just kind of subtly dress it up a little bit. But okay, I'm loving those three so far. So let me do this other drawer. Come back here, but that one got a little harsh. Yes, that's better. Okay. Oh, I don't know about you guys, but I like that purple going on there. That just kind of softened it a little bit, added a little bit of texture onto those drawer fronts. I'm seeing some of the green, a little bit of a hit every so often of that coral coming through. Okay, I'm kind of digging that. That's kind of working. So what the plan is from here, and I think that was just enough of that little bit of a purple going. And again, see, not clean. So I'm going to let this dry. We're done with it for today, for the front of this. So I'm going to let this dry. And tomorrow we're going to come back and we're going to start doing some metallics. So definitely adding some golden ticket. So golden ticket from DIY, which is a patina finish. It's very liquidy. It's very almost translucent, transparent. And I think that we'll apply it, we'll add some water to it. So we're looking at it kind of flowing all over. I'm thinking I'll probably add it with the brayer as well. So we'll get some of that texture happening over the piece. But I also have this kind of silvery, plummy powder. And I think that I might mix this into the clear wax. So when I do finally add the wax over top of even the gold, then we're adding a little bit of a shimmer to that as well. I don't know. I might not do that part. We'll see how the gold part goes. And it might be enough. So sometimes enough is enough. In my head, I may have more steps lined up and I start deleting them as I go. So that one might be the deleted step for this particular piece. But I'll bring down some of the gilding waxes I have too, just in case I wanted to add a little bit more gold or a little bit more bling. The hardware will be on the gold tone side of things, I think. So we'll see once I add the gold whether or not it would be too much, in which case then I might go for a more toned down look on the hardware. So we'll see which direction I end up taking with that one. But these door sides, they all get wiped down and painted out. So no worries on that. I do that at the end, but they just get made to be a solid color, so it's not a big issue. So I'm liking where we're at now. I really like adding in that purple wash over top. That added a little bit more texture and softened out the pink. It was a little bit too stark. I think the gold is going to be the perfect touch for this. So we'll see how that goes tomorrow. Hopefully you can join me then or catch it on replay. And you know, dogs, feel free to share, and you guys go do something creative. Have a good time. Take care.